Hello. Today we are going to be saving some money. We are going to be doing DIY baseboards or chipboard pieces for our journals and papercraft projects. If you stick around to the end, we'll do a more advanced kind of method of making these, and we'll also use some so you can see how to incorporate them into your projects. I have lots of bits and pieces that I have cut out of magazines and brochures, and some of these are from my National Trust leaflets. I'm just going to have a quick look through and see which pieces would work really well. So we've got some great photographs here. We'll use those. That piece. We don't want to do too many because I have several versions of this that we want to do today. So we might not even do all of these. We're going to start with some scrap packaging. Now I've got some cereal boxes, and I've also got here, this is a piece of the thin kind of card that comes out of my printer paper. The first thing we're going to do is ink these. Now, because some of these are glossy, the ink is not going to take particularly well, but hopefully we can just take away that white edge. I've got a new camera set up today. It's the first day of filming with my new camera set up, so I'm not 100% sure how this is going to go. Hopefully I am actually filming and everything is going to go well. We want to glue these down onto our cardboard. I'm going to glue it on this side. And now I have to cut these out. Now, the beauty of using these shiny kind of magazine images is you can remove your glue using one of these little eraser tools. So now I'm going to take this piece of card and I'm going to do this whole process again. I know it's a lot of cutting, but it is worth it in the end. So we're going to mount this onto another piece of card because you could leave it as it is. It's just not very sturdy at the moment, so it doesn't really resemble a chipboard piece of baseboard or ephemera. Now this time when I cut them out, I'm not going to cut them out individually. I'm going to cut them out just as a strip. I'm going to make sure these are really pushed down. And before I do the next step, I'm just going to make sure I have got all of that glue off. Right, so the next thing we are going to need is our packing tape. It's quite a wide tape, but it's very cheap. Lots of us have it around our house. I'm just going to pull a piece of our tape off. Slowly lower it to our images, making sure I cover the whole image. I think I just about got that. Now I've got a nice little wrinkle in there, which I didn't want. Just going to cut my tape. Every single time I've done this, I've done it without a wrinkle. And now I'm on camera, I've got wrinkles. Burnish this down, try and get as much of those wrinkles out as I possibly can. Okay, so lift that up, and now we've got the tape on and we've double mounted these. I'm going to cut them out again. And now I'm going to go round with my ink again. So we have 3 little chipboard pieces, quite thick. They've got a little bit of sturdiness to them. So that is, I mean, these are virtually free, aren't they? We've cut out images from a book, mounted them onto cereal packet, and then we have just covered them with packing tape. So we're going to move on to the second kind of level, if you like. And I have some absolutely amazing digitals from Which Craft Do You Do? Now, and some of them are actually on the floor now. I also have this basket of older ones that I used in a previous video, and the 2 kits I've used is these are from Bits and Pieces and these are from Vintage Grunge Elements. Now these kits are both huge, so you can get an awful lot of ephemera from these kits. I'm just going to pull out a few of these. Let's do those. So I've got 4 there, and I'm going to cut out. I do absolutely love this kind of black and white tape, and I want a slightly thicker piece, so I'm going to cut out, I think this is 2, but I'm going to cut those together. So I'm going to use that, and this is from the newer kit, Grunge, Vintage Grunge Elements, and I'm also going to cut out one of these. I think I'm going to go for these tickets here. Let's do that. And let's do one of these smaller portraits as well. Okay, so we've got a few pieces here. Next step. Right, I've got that piece of cardboard back, and I do need to mount everything twice again. So again, I'm going to ink these pieces. So I'm going to cut these out for the first time, and I'm going to try and save as much of this cardboard as I possibly can so I can mount these all a second time. Okay, so these of course now need mounting a second time. This is a great project to do if you've lost your mojo, or you just don't know what you want to do, because it's just one of those projects you can get on with. You don't have to think too much. You can just get on and do some cutting and sticking, which is one of those things that kind of ends up motivating you, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to cut these up the middle, so I've got 2 halves, and let's hope this one goes better than the last one did. So we don't want any wrinkles in this. Grab my tape, line that up, and these are slightly thinner, so it's a little bit easier, I think. So just pull that off. Fold that over. I'm just going to fold the end of my tape in a little bit, just so that's stuck to itself, and the same this side. Just going to make that a little bit easier to handle, and I'm just going to burnish out as many of those creases that I still manage to get in as I possibly can. So final time, I'm just going to cut these out. And now we have these amazing pieces. They are shiny, but I think they're fabulous. So if we give these an ink, so I've already done a few of these, and I just love these. I think they're great. And obviously this one I got a little bit of a crease in, but that actually adds to the effect. So these ones are all mounted on to cereal packets or scrap cardboard, and they are covered with just packing tape, and even though they're shiny, I absolutely love them. I think they're great. They will make fabulous ephemera for journals or any other paper craft. So now we have this piece. Now these particular ones, hopefully you can just about see, they are a little bit too wide for our packing tape. Don't worry about that. You've got 2 options. You can either put your tape down the middle and then cut off the edges. That's fine. You probably want to do that before you mount them. But I am going to use some of that good old-fashioned school favourite sticky back plastic. And this is actually really easy to use. I'm just going to use the guidelines to cut a piece out, because you don't want this too much bigger than you actually need. 1, you don't really want to waste it, and 2, it's actually more difficult to use the bigger the piece. Line it up again and use one of my lines to just cut a piece off. There are a lot of things that are happening in filming that didn't happen when I made this for real. So here we go. This is usually a 5 or 10 minute job trying to find the edge, peeling this away. Here we go. And I lost it. thought I had it there. You don't want to get your fingerprints on this too much if you can get away with it, because they will show up under the sticky plastic. Finally. Now what I'm going to do is just peel off a really small amount. Just going to line it up and put it down. And I'm going to start with my bone folder, pushing that straight down. And then I'm going to lift it and remove the back as I push this down. So no wrinkles. It's much easier to get no wrinkles when you're using sticky back plastic, but obviously it is a little bit more expensive to get than the packing tape. Now, as I'm going down, I can see my tape is slightly moving. So I didn't put this down very straight. So just make sure you are definitely covering your pieces as you take the backing off. Give that a really good burnish down at this stage. Now I'm going to take this piece, just going to stick that excess sticky back plastic to that piece of paper. That makes things a little bit easier to cut out. So let's cut. Like I said, it's a great project if you've got no mojo, because there's lots of cutting and sticking. And here we have our little pieces. So if we look at the difference in the texture, the packing tape is ever so slightly more shiny. The sticky back plastic is a little bit duller. It's not quite as shiny. So obviously depending on the look you're going for. And these are the ones I made here. This was my first mistake. You can see I actually stuck the sellotape or the packing tape down before I realised these were too wide, but I made some of these as well, and I again absolutely love them. Use this on non-kit images. You don't have to use a kit, but these kit pieces do make these look absolutely fabulous. So that's method number 2. Method number 3 is a little bit different, and you will need a little bit more to make this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off some of my tape measure. Now this is a fabulous way of making these. You can do them shiny, or I'm going to make my matte, and I would say these are the most authentic kind of baseboard pieces if you want to try these. Now I'm going to cut, I think I'm going to leave that like that. I have this page also from the kit, which is absolutely awesome. And I'm going to cut that white border off. I'm just going to move those aside a moment. I'm just going to give this a brush down, make sure I've got as much off there as I possibly can. And I'm going to bring in my new laminating pouches. Now these are matte and they are absolutely fabulous, and these were actually reasonably priced. There's 120 pouches here. I'll pop a link down below, but they were, I think, about £15, so it's quite good value because you can make an awful lot. Now I'm going to put in my pictures, lay in some of my ephemera pieces. Now what I need to be very careful of is not, let's cut this down a little bit. We don't want to go too close to the edge of our laminating pouch, because this is a trick that I've seen lots of people do since I've been doing this laminating stuff. I have done some research on YouTube and found some fabulous ideas, and I'm going to lay down this piece of plain paper over the top. I'm going to close my laminating pouch, and you can kind of see where my pieces are, and this white paper covers the whole lot. And I'm just going to pop this through my laminator. It's just off to the right here. I'm going to put that through. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little tip. Now this refers to my laminator. It might not refer to yours, but I put it through upside down because I find when I've got this second sheet of paper, the piece on top tends to wrinkle. So I put mine in image side down, and then it's this side that wrinkles, which I'm not worried about, because what we want is we want paper on the back of these to be able to glue. It's much more tricky to glue the laminate, but because it's plastic, it's actually a lot easier to just use the paper. So what I'm going to do is cut these out. If I start with the pictures, I'll show you what it does. Because you've got these two sheets, obviously they don't stick together. So, I mean, this would make a fabulous pocket, wouldn't it? Oh, wow. Might have to have a little play with pockets later. But for now, I'm just going to cut these out. Now this piece I'm not throwing away because we've got laminate one side, paper the other, and this is fabulous for using your archival ink to print onto. So we've got some lovely laminated images. So I'm just going to cut a few more of these out. So you can see what we now have is a matte surface, but it is kind of plasticky on these, and we have the paper backing, so they're perfect for gluing down. We're not going to do all of these, unfortunately, so I'm just going to cut a few pieces out because obviously this is going to take us a minute. So we're going to put a few of these aside. I do actually already have a little tin of pieces that I've laminated and cut out but haven't yet mounted onto my card. So let's do maybe I'll cut these 3 out at the end here. We might not do them all. Okay, now this time, to kind of improve these, I'm going to use this. And this is a piece of board from the back of a paper pad. I think this one had cartridge paper in it. So it was quite a big one. It was A3. So I'm going to use this to now mount my pieces. We want to make sure we're pushing this down really well. We don't need to worry too much about getting glue on this though, because it's shiny, it's really easy to use the eraser tool to remove any glue you might get on the surface. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at this because otherwise it's going to be a rather long video. I'm just going to cut. Now, it is actually possible to cut this with a pair of scissors, but it's not that easy. So I'm just going to cut that down to size, grab my cutting board, my knife and my ruler. Now probably what I should have done is left a little bit more space around my elements. Okay, so these pieces are already a lot thicker than if you had used the cereal packet. So on these two pieces, I'm actually going to leave those as they are. These pieces, I want them to be a little bit more chunky. So I'm going to double up on my mounting. So I'm going to glue these down for a second time. It's really important to get glue right to the edge when you're doing this. And when we put them down, we need to put plenty of pressure on. We need to put a lot of pressure on here to make sure they stick all the way around the edges. So I'm going to cut these out for the second time. Okay, so these are absolutely lovely and thick. They are very, very sturdy. These are much more sturdy. They're not as sturdy as these. These are proper thick kind of baseboard pieces. So what we need to do is just make sure we've got a kind of smooth and neat finish. So I'm just going to use my emery board. You can use any kind of sandpaper, and you can see what that does. It actually really smooths off that edge, so you can't really see the join between the two pieces of cardboard or backboard. Okay, now this particular piece, I'm going to grab the other. There's several of these on the page, so I'm going to cut another one of those out. And this is kind of one of the ideas of how you can use these. I'm going to add some glue to the back of this, and then I'm going to stick it to the back of that one. Make sure that's really nicely stuck. I'm just going to put that aside for a moment before I cut that down. Now I'm going to use good old vintage photo to ink this one here. And this little strip of numbers, I'm actually going to use black soot because I think that's going to look lovely. Right, so I'm now going to just trim this one down. So this one is now double-sided and would make a fabulous charm. It's really, really sturdy. We've got that laminate on here. I love it. Love it. Love this too with the black edge. These ones are slightly thinner. I haven't inked these yet for the simple reason I'm not sure what project I'm going to use these on. I might use them fairly soon. I might use them in a moment. Or what I might do is decide to back those a second time. So these are ones that I made earlier. These are all double thickness. So we've got some nice sturdy pieces here. So we've got all of these chipboard pieces for our projects, but how are we going to use them? I'm going to share a couple of ideas with you now. So if you want to know how you can use some of your chipboard pieces, I made this following Suzy from Shabby Souls tutorial, and she used a lot of chipboard pieces. Mine were all handmade, but I did use a lot of chipboard pieces in here. So I've got a piece up there, I've got a piece down here, there's another piece here, and she gives you some good tips on how to make sure it doesn't wobble too much when you make your... So my first lesson has been learnt. I've already made quite a bit of this and realised it wasn't filming, but I think it cut off actually not at a too bad spot. So in the kit, Vintage Grunge Elements, you've got a whole heap of tags. Now I've cut out this one, I've glued it, and then I got this fabulous fabric from Chantel, who is Red Page Cafe, from her Instagram a while ago when she had an Instagram sale. And I've cut a little tab out and set that on top there. And what I did was I used two of the laminated elements. They're not backed though, they're just laminated, and two of the squares. So these come from the Vintage Grunge, and these two came from the Bits and Pieces kit. And then I also found two of Kerry's little butterflies from her, I think it's a huge butterfly kit. I've got myself a little clip. I just tore that and inked it. I've glued these pieces together roughly, and then I'm going to use this element that we made using the laminate and the doubled background. So I realised it had stopped filming when I said I'm just going to do some sewing. So I'm going to go and sew these and be right back. Another mistake, I actually realised I was sewing in ivory rather than black. I thought I had black thread in, but I didn't. So I'm going to start by gluing this piece on to my background. And while I do that, I'm actually going to add my little clip here to that little tear, like that. And now I'm going to just glue down my little chipboard piece. I clearly have an issue with the new filming setup because it stopped recording again. But here is my finished tag. I've got a little word on there, a couple of Kerry's butterflies. These are all from Kerry's kit, so thank you so much, Kerry, for such an amazing digital. So thanks ever so much for joining me. I hope you'll make some of these, and if you do, tag me on social media. I'd love to see what you come up with. I will see you all again really soon. Take care. Bye.